This is the SEC Insider Hit. Presented by your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Go local. Go with a home team.
Show is brought to you by Bulldog Burger in Ridgeland, Starkville, and Tupelo. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. And Mississippi State takes their seventh straight series from Ole Miss in baseball. And even though Lemonis's back has been against the wall, he owns Ole Miss since he's been there. And it was a wild weekend, as y'all know. They lost game one, and then they came back to win game 2 and 3. And Dakota Jordan had, I guess, another coming out party, but definitely on the biggest stage as they set the NCAA record for single game on Saturday and series over the weekend. We welcome in Charlie Winfield, ESPN Plus. He calls several dozen games a year, Mississippi State baseball and basketball, and he called 2 of the 3 over the weekend. Charlie joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Charlie, what do you make of this? Just doesn't happen in baseball when you know, whatever it is, Dodgers, Giants, and Yankees. Well, maybe it does. But anyway, the point is, how do you describe what's happened, one over the weekend, but the last 7 series?
What's the old Yogi Berra line? It's 90% half mental. And I think that has a lot to do with it, honestly. And I think it all really starts because the streak started with Jake Mangum, and it started when that group came here. And of course, in 16, Mangum had some help, right? I mean, he had Brent Rooker, and it's pretty good players behind him, right? But that group just seemed to set an expectation, and then you follow it with, a McNamee, a Tanner Allen, a Rowdy Jordan that just all bought into this idea that we don't lose. And baseball is a sport that is so driven by confidence. And for whatever reason, Mississippi State has been able to hold on to that confidence in ball games against Ole Miss, because this weekend really defies the numbers a lot of way you look at it. Gonzalez has a good weekend. Think about this, at the bottom of the Ole Miss order, Chatagnier struggled to hit, and he gets 2 hits, and they still lose. Mississippi State commits errors, and they still lose. Sometimes things just don't add up in baseball. And from a numbers perspective, this weekend didn't. I don't know another way to explain it other than just the power of expectation that's been created.
Okay, we'll expand on that. You've covered all those players you just referenced. Dakota Jordan strikes out looking as a true freshman on Friday night, and then comes back and does what he did on Saturday and Sunday. Walk me through that.
I think one of the things about Dakota Jordan is, when you look at him, that this is a guy, when you watch the ball come off the bat, that this is a guy who has some special talent. But a lot of times we expect, because someone is talented, for them to have immediate success, and it just doesn't work that way. It takes an adjustment period. It's different when the lights come on. And it took him 15 games. I remind people all the time, it took Jake Mangum a little bit too. People forget about a 1 for 15 start or so that he had. And so for Dakota Jordan, the light has just come on. And then you start to take that talent and build it with experiences. And that he will be a better player because he struck out to end the game on Friday. And conversely, I made the point on the broadcast the other day, Tekoyan will be a better pitcher in big moments because of what happened to him at the end of that ball game on Saturday. He's a young, very talented guy. So I think what we're seeing with Dakota Jordan, though, is not just a guy who learns from experiences, but who does so exceptionally fast. And, man, that's the beauty of baseball. It'll bring you up when you're down and pick you up when you're low. And it has been, for him to have that chance the very next day, that's a pretty awesome chance right there.
And how about the way he handled it post-game on Friday as a true freshman?
Yeah, I'm telling you, he and that goes back to, I think, if you look at one of the things that has been a misconception about this Mississippi State baseball team, even when it was struggling, was that it was a team that was selfish, that it was a team that was individuals, that they weren't getting along, that there were locker room problems. None of that was actually true if you were talking to the guys. And I think it speaks and reveals a lot, not just about him, but about the overall culture within the locker room. That even though things weren't going well, and believe me, they knew it. We knew it. If you had a brain, you knew it, right? But the team has not. I still feel like you take a Ross Highfield, for example, another guy who's learning from experiences as he goes. You look at what Gerangelo did yesterday. Best outing he's had here by far, particularly going right and left. I think what you're seeing is some younger guys really growing up.
And I thought Highfield I think he's just getting better and better behind the plate because, I mean, he's under a lot of pressure to perform every day instead of 15 to 20 games over his freshman year. Let's go back to the pressure. So, and I know you have to be careful with this because of the Bulldog Initiative and you're close to the program and all that. But bottom line is Lemonis has had his back against the wall. And now they've won non-conference games and they've won the last two series. And they still have a long way to go, but they could chip away at this thing, and get to 11 or so and get to Hoover. Is this smoke and mirrors for Charlie Winfield, or do you see them maybe turning the corner at the last 2.5 weeks or so, Charlie?
No, I see a team that's getting better. And I think, all my conversations with Chris Lemonis, I thought he saw this coming too. You say, all right, why, when you were sitting here at the bottom of the league at one point, why can you have room for optimism? Here's why. Number one, Cade Smith comes back. And you lose that ball game on Friday, but Cade Smith gave you what you needed. Cade Smith did his job. Casey Hunt getting healthy. And getting guys healthy matters. Giving time for young guys to grow up matters. And so when you're in practice and you see every day what Dakota Jordan can do, and you know that it's coming, and you look at even a Slade Alford who's improved, and look what Ross Highfield, you hit on this, Bo, and you're exactly right. The improvement he has made behind the plate
incredible
has been unbelievable. And so every single time I've had a conversation with Chris Lemonis, it has never involved man, this is terrible, this is falling apart. It was always, look, man, I'm telling you, we are right there. This guy's coming back. Aaron Nixon is going to be back, and he's going to need a week or so. He's going to need a few outings that aren't going to be pretty, but I'm telling you right now, Aaron Nixon is going to be a factor. And what happened? He came back. First couple outings were a little bit rocky, hit 3 guys in 1 inning, but he was a difference maker this weekend, pitching twice and pitching a lot in big moments yesterday. And so there is a lot more optimism internally that what you're seeing is a program that is making the turn as opposed to one that just got hot for a couple of weekends.
He is Charlie Winfield on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. He called 2 of the 3 games over the weekend on ESPN Plus. Mississippi State's gone back-to-back series wins over Bama and Ole Miss, and they have another winnable series against Auburn this weekend. I thought Mershon's play on Saturday, the double play that he made, basically by himself, and on Sunday, and then, his plate discipline, switch hitter at the plate. I think the shortstop position has got to be his going forward. How do you see it?
Yeah, baseball has a way, doesn't it, of sometimes it just solves its own dilemmas. It solves its own issues. And I think you probably saw that this weekend, although we know things can change. It can go either way. Like I said, it can knock you down when you're feeling high. But Bart Gregory said this as he and I were talking after the game yesterday, and I agreed with him. If this team makes a run to an NCAA regional, as improbable as that may seem, if this team makes it to Hoover, and we go back and we look at this season, put a red circle around the double play ball that got Mississippi State out of the 7th inning yesterday that Mershon, as you say, made by himself. So, set the scene. Ole Miss has got the bases loaded. They've gotten a run home on a ball that was just smashed to third, couldn't get an out on a Kemp Alderman single. And Calarco comes up. And Calarco's got a big bat. And this is the point in the ball game where it was winning time for Ole Miss. And Mississippi State had gone to the bullpen. You bring in Nixon, and he gets a ball hit well up the middle. It was hit to the second baseman side of the bag. It was hit to the first base side of second base. Marshawn gets it, somehow uses the footwork to get back to the bag, touch the base, and then throw out the runner at first. And I told Bart it wasn't excitement that I heard in his voice. It was shock, because I don't think – you think originally that ball's getting into center field.
Sure.
And then you never think you've got a chance to even think about getting the out at second, because the way his momentum was going. Guys and players on this team, guys around this team, have raved about Marshawn and the kind of guy he's going to be. And I thought you saw something special there. It could be a big-time play in the overall season.
It absolutely. Charlie Winfield on the Out of Bounds show. All right, let's go back to the two freshmen yesterday. They were both fantastic, Durangelo and Quinn.
Quinn's good, isn't he?
Oh, good.
Man, he looked so good. And I predicted before that ball game that we were going to see a ton of walks, that we were going to see two freshmen come in before a crowd of 12,000 people and melt down. And neither one of those guys backed up an inch. And if you're a State fan, if you're an Ole Miss fan, if you can just disassociate from the outcome and enjoy baseball, that was a special thing to watch, two young guys going at it like that.
And you were right there behind the plate calling the game. Talk about Durangelo and the breaking ball from the left side.
Best we've seen. He has been throwing. He's got that a little more of a sweeping pitch from the left side. He's been throwing it well at times to some people, but he kind of lacked the conviction in it. And what we saw in the ball game yesterday, and he didn't have a choice. He's thrown right-handed for 2 straight games. Mm-hmm. What we saw yesterday was Durangelo commit throwing left-handed. There were 5 left-handed hitters in the lineup, and that big sweeping breaking pitch, it was so good yesterday.
Back to Nixon, he looked good on Saturday, and then yesterday he comes back in. What kind of piece could he be going forward? And also, Charlie, what do you think he can do as far as on a day where he needs to go even longer? Like, what do you think? Where does he tap out type deal?
I think Nixon could actually be a 4-inning guy in spots. When you talk to Aaron Nixon, this is a guy who is a baseball junkie. He is baseball's equivalent of a gym rat. He loves it, lives for baseball, dies for the moments on the mound. And being hurt was driving him crazy. And coming back and not pitching as well as he wanted. It was one of those things yesterday. I know Mississippi State had some guys down in the bullpen saying, hey, I'm ready to go. I want the ball too. Nixon wasn't going to give it up. I think he is a guy. Now, it's like everything else. The longer you use him, the less you can use him over the weekend. But I think what it does now, with Dome back in the bullpen, because of the return of Cade Smith, I think it now gives you a way to bridge to and close out games that you did not have a month ago.
Okay. So let's go back to the plate. The last, I don't know, whenever Cohen got it going, 10, 11 through basically 21, they've been, a gap hitting team. And then you had a bunch of guys who could, smash singles. But now they're going long ball. So they've gone from this almost Dan McDonnell, Bianco 03 till damn near today, and then Mississippi State was more slap it around the yard. And now over the weekend, it's hit bombs or bust. What are your thoughts on this new approach from the plate?
I don't know that I think some of it, some of it's approach. Hunter Hines is not a guy up there who thinks, let me just hit a single the other way, right? Let me see if I can just maybe put one in play here, shorten up, right? But the ballpark, one of the things that has been missed is how much the ballpark's changed. The new stadium has impacted hitting. The wind in the stadium is significantly different around the plate than it was before. The other thing that happened and this is in that 15, 16 time frame as the balls start changing. And look, man, I'm just telling you, I can't prove this, but I can read. And there's something to the baseballs this year. These things are just traveling. We're seeing more balls hit 450 feet plus than we've ever seen. So I think the wind, the change in the stadium, the balls, I think all those things have an impact on that. But you know what? If you got a guy like Hunter Hines, we're sitting at 17 home runs right now, a slugging percentage over 700, with that right field porch looking awfully tempting. You know what? I'm not going to ask him to bunt against the shift either.
People were, but then that went that went quiet in a way after Saturday and Sunday wins. Charlie Winfield called 2 of the 3 games on ESPN Plus. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. How about Jacob Gonzalez? In my opinion, the 2 best players in the stadium were Gonzalez and Dakota Jordan, and they lived up to the billing and the hype and so on. Talk about what he did at the plate and in the field throughout the series, Charlie.
Well, the one thing Gonzalez gives you is, I should say, one of the many things Gonzalez gives you. If the ball is hit to his side of the field, it's going to get fielded, and it's going to be thrown, and there's going to be an out recorded. He's just good. In fact, I do have one issue with him, though, and that is his home run on Friday actually damaged some things in my rig in the outfield. So, we had barbecue sauce flying around out there that he might have to cover up. But, no, I think, look, I told somebody, one of the most heated sports arguments I've been in the past 2 years was with an Ole Miss friend of mine, who was like, yeah, he's okay. I was like, okay, the guy's going to be a major league player for 10 years. And he said, well, yeah, third base. I'm like, oh, well, in that case, I mean, because, we expect so much out of guys so early. I kind of think he projects maybe as a third baseman, but I'll say this, he's an elite ball player. And
crazy.
Anybody who doesn't want Jacob Gonzalez on their baseball team hadn't watched much baseball.
All right, Bradley Lofton. What would be the ideal week for him to throw tomorrow against Southern University, like 2 innings, and drop him in some kind of mid-relief role going forward? I feel like they'd still need some more bodies on the weekend, Charlie, to piece even with Nixon coming back and Dome staying in the pen and Cade back. You just kind of feel like they're still thin. What would be your ideal scenario with Bradley Lofton?
Well, not to break any news here, I don't think that ball game tomorrow is going to be played. Not official yet, but there have been some rain adjustments within the SWAC that's going to force Southern to play a couple of games tomorrow within the league.
Gotcha. So
it looks like we may get a few extra days off here, which to some degree, not playing a midweek game can be good, and you get a little rest after an emotional weekend with a really important trip to Auburn coming up. But you're right. Some of these guys, you still have to find innings. You've got Will Gibbs, who needs innings. You got Sierra, who needs innings. You got Tyler Davis, and you've got Bradley Lofton. Lofton, of course, one of the big freshmen, and he's not far. The thing with Lofton is he has a ultra-high competitive switch, okay? His goes to 11. And so the thing that you've got to do with him is he needs the experience. The only way you teach a guy to be a little more in the moment is to be in the moment. And so I think ideally, if it were me, he would start eating up about 5 innings in every midweek, get him long enough to qualify for a win, and then have him a couple of innings if I needed him on the weekend.
Okay. And look, as much as they have taken a beating from the fan base, Lamonis and Foxhall stayed with Durangelo. Granted, the left side started and the breaking ball was there, and they kept him in the starting lineup. Now, some of that maybe they don't have any more options, but it lined up over the weekend, right? So tip of the cap to the coaching staff?
Yeah, and I'll give them another tip of the cap, too, and that is switching Gartman from game 3 to game 2.
Yeah.
Putting him in front of the circus that was Saturday. Gartman is a guy who is much less, I don't know, he just seems calm. He doesn't seem to get terribly worked up about things. And if you go back historically, this has been a ball game that middle game on Super Bulldog weekend has been a bad one for Mississippi State because the dude effect got to them, not to the opponent. Historically, I thought it was a really good move putting Gerangelo in a little bit calmer atmosphere on Sunday, hooked up against another freshman, and not into that mess that was Saturday.
All right, let's get ahead of ourselves. They're at 5 wins. They've got a winnable series against Auburn and A&M. We'll see what happens with some other stuff. Tennessee doesn't look like we thought they would look. If they can get to 11 or 12, and that could be a reach, and go to Hoover and win 1 or 2, do you think they could be a road number 3 regional team?
I like 12 or 13 a little bit better, and I know that's a tough ask, but here's the good thing, and we forget about this because Ole Miss was 7-14 last year at a point, right, within the league, and then goes on and has the great year. You know what really did it for them? They went down and had the big series at LSU. State's going to have that chance. They're going to have that chance in Baton Rouge in the middle of May. So it's on the table for you. Then you've got A&M at home, so you've got your chance to end the year. You got Arkansas. You beat Arkansas 2 out of 3, and you're going right up to the top. So I think it's hard to say where the numbers are going to fall. Right now the SEC West, the record's not great anyway. And so, you right now, in fact, you win, you're only 1 game out of 4th place in the West. And so a big weekend this weekend, but I think they have a legitimate chance. I'd like to see them pick up 9 wins in the last 15.
Okay. I've got 1 minute. How are things going with the Bulldog Initiative?
Very good. We've got a lot of really exciting things about the Bulldog Initiative that'll be coming out very soon. And I'll be honest with you, it was especially exciting being able to look out on the field this weekend and see guys we're working with, like a Dakota Jordan, like a Colton Ledbetter, like a Hunter Hines. The list goes on. Aaron Nixon having big weekends. And it's pretty cool when you start to see guys who are helping you do so well in representing Mississippi State.
Charlie, we appreciate the time. Thanks, man.
Always. Thanks, Bo.
Charlie Winfield on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Mississippi State takes 2 of 3. They'll head to Auburn this weekend. And who will they play, Blake Scott? Their former pitching coach, Butch Thompson, who's done a good job at Auburn. But this is a winnable series. Now, I can promise you there'll be a little bit more juice this week in practice and just mentally for Butch Thompson because he loved his time at Mississippi State, but he'll want it that much more. So, but winnable series. We're going to jump into some football on the other side. We'll have Chris Lemonis at 10:15. So, 15 minutes after the show, and then we'll post it on Apple Podcasts. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. But at 10:15, you'll be able to watch it live on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. YouTube, Out of Bounds Sports. Lemonis at 10:15.